Welcome to Negocios with BISILA BOKOKO. I am very excited today because we're going to speak with Gressard about what is to be an environmental specialist and biologist. And since we are in a moment that climate change is so important and everything about the environment is so crucial, I think it's going to be a great conversation for us to learn something today with you, Scott. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So just share with us, what is exactly an environmental and biologist specialist?
Yes, it's a little bit hard to define because here at DUDEC, it can kind of depend on the projects you're working on and the client needs. But basically, in a nutshell, we evaluate biological and aquatic resources on a project site. I specialize in particularly streams and wetlands. And then we provide technical analysis and permitting strategy for projects that may need to either avoid resources that are present on a project site or obtain permissions to impact them from applicable resource agencies.
So what is your background?
Yeah, so I have always been interested in natural systems, natural resources, and the outdoors. And so I got a degree from UC San Diego in ecology, behavior, and evolution. As an undergraduate, and then went on to get a master's degree there in biology. And I wasn't sure what direction I wanted to take that. The environmental consulting industry seemed like a natural fit once I discovered it. And so I started as a contract biologist, actually traveling out to the deserts outside of Las Vegas and doing biological surveys. And then kind of jump-started my career that way and got a job here at DUDEC, where I've been working ever since and learning more and more about the resources and the regulatory environment here in California.
Well, now I think you are working in a number of municipal infrastructure projects. Can you just give us a little bit of an insight about what is exactly what you're doing in San Diego?
Yeah, so a lot of our infrastructure municipality clients, if you can imagine, as rain falls on a city, it flows into streams and floodways, and those provide an important service for the residences and properties around because they prevent them from flooding. But at the same time, there are sensitive wetland resources that establish in those areas. So at times the cities need to go in to clear them to provide flood protections for the neighboring areas. And so we assist them in identifying if there are sensitive resources there, and if so, what are the boundaries of those resources? Are there listed species protected by the Endangered Species Act that could utilize habitat there? If so, what are the steps that they need to do to implement their projects? So we work both with the agency or with the municipality, our client, and also with the resource agency staff that would issue them permits and oversee their project to make sure it's done in an environmentally responsible way.
Oh, wonderful. So can you just tell us, what is the Clean Water Act?
Yeah, so the Clean Water Act is a federal legislation that went into effect in 1972. It's as with many large federal laws, it's open to interpretation over the years. So it's been a political battleground for a number of different interests, and so it's gone all the way up. Disputes have gone up to the Supreme Court, and we still act based on some of those rulings today. And presidential administrations have also sought to influence it. The act basically determines how discharges to waters, so streams and wetlands throughout the United States, are allowed to occur. So the Obama administration added an amendment of their own that wanted to broaden federal regulation and make it more strict. Then when the Trump administration came in, they repealed that as somewhat predictably, and wanted to narrow the regulations, the federal regulations. And so that occurred under what they call the Navigable Waters Protection Rule, which is what we're working under currently. And then most recently, the Biden administration has indicated that they would like to repeal that law, which is an interpretation of the Clean Water Act, and again, we would expect broaden that federal regulation out wider to provide more protections under the federal government coverage. So that hasn't occurred yet. We don't know when it will, but it's been a challenging time for the projects that are trying to be implemented to understand what regulation is in effect.
I can imagine. So is California one of the strictest environmental regulation states?
It is, yeah. I think that the reasons for that are, there are a number of them. I guess first off, probably predictably from a political perspective, environmental concerns tend to be high on the Democratic list and high priorities. So California is a Democratic leaning state. So I think that's one reason why you see fairly strict environmental state laws. We have the California Environmental Quality Act here that is a rigorous process for projects to go through. I think also, we have a high population here in California, and there's been a recognition that we really rely on natural resources here. We have many beautiful resources throughout the state. And so with the number of people and the growing development, there had to be a way to protect those. So I think that's another reason why you see that here.
And do you think that the current administration is more in alignment with the philosophy of the environment in California? And do you see difference between one administration and another?
Certainly, yes. I think that, again, previously the Trump administration had tried to roll back some of the federal environmental protections. And so the state of California responded by increasing their state coverage. So actually here in California, the state regulations in many cases were broadened out to cover areas where the federal regulations were no longer covering. So now I think with the Biden administration coming in, and I think that their environmental goals are more aligned with what you see here in California. And so there will be more cooperation with federal regulatory entities.
What do you love about your work?
I think just the diversity of projects, no project is the same, and you're kind of always building on the knowledge that you've learned on the previous project and bringing that to a new set of circumstances. So it's certainly never dull. I think that's been something that I've really enjoyed.
Mm-hmm. And for someone who would like to follow your steps, what advices you would give them?
I think it would be to just be open to, different experiences. Certainly early in your career, you never know what type of work will lead you into something else. So, I think in consulting, because of the diversity of projects, just building a knowledge base is really beneficial and really valuable. So just being open to working in different areas and broadening your experiences, I think is a really great way to learn what you love to do as well.
And to sum up, we know that water is a challenge. What do you see coming next? I mean, how do you see that your industry is going to develop?
Yeah, I think, as we discussed, that we'll be looking for changes to federal regulations and how we can support projects that way. I think that the one big change in the immediate future would be the infrastructure bill that passed the Senate recently. That's a large amount of federal funding on infrastructure type of work, which I think consultants across the country will be looking to support. So that, assisting with that bill and ensuring that, for our part, that the federal regulations and environmental coverage is implemented appropriately, and supporting clients in that way will be a huge part of the future.
Well, thank you so much, Scott. I think you have a very exciting job with a lot of responsibilities too. It's not easy to just navigate to that legal framework, but it seems that for you it's easy. The way you tell us is like, oh, it's okay, we could do this. So thank you so much for your time today. For me, it has definitely been really an eye-opener and a learning experience, and I hope for all our viewers too.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.